I think this creator ecosystem is now dividing itself into these different tiers, and we can move between these tiers. We can move from a starter point where we might just have a few hundred or a few dozen subscribers or readers or listeners or viewers, to a point where we're actually starting to sustain something over a longer period of time. And maybe now we're getting into the range of having between 1,000 and 10,000 followers or readers or listeners or viewers. And then finally up to the point where we're really making a living. In that six-figure category, we've got 100,000 potentially or more followers or readers or viewers. And then finally, some of us can aspire to be at that superstar tier. Not me, but some people will make it up there. And these are people like Marcus Brownlee, for example, superstars on YouTube, or Heather Cox Richardson, a really outstanding newsletter writer on Substack. These people who are creating projects on all sorts of different platforms, whether blogging, newsletters, social media, Instagram, TikTok, in some cases podcasting, YouTube, etc. And they are in all of these different tiers. And if you're in any of these tiers, I think you'll benefit from strengthening your web presence with more creativity, more distinctiveness, and more of the elements that we'll look at in the examples that we'll have ahead of us shortly. One of the key things that we want to have is authenticity. So in our web presence, and we'll look at a bunch of examples of this, we want to really be our authentic selves. So one of the difference between the creator content and sort of general content from companies or organizations or big publishers is that there's more of a personality, more of a human side, more authenticity to the content that individual creators are creating, and their web presence should reflect that. So when we look at someone like Emily Atkin, who runs heated.world and creates content about climate change, we see someone who is not afraid to talk about what's going on in their lives, not afraid to be honest, to describe a personal challenge maybe at some point, and also to just speak in their own voice, whether on their website or on their newsletter in Emily's case. Another key quality of these creators who stand out and create a really strong web presence is that they have passion around what they're doing. It's not just something that they're doing as a job. It's not just something that they're doing pro forma or because they have to. It's something that they're doing because they're excited to. Lindsay Gibbs is a good example of this. She runs powerplays.news. She's not necessarily at that superstar level of hundreds of thousands of followers. She's a creator who's creating her own niche gradually and focusing on sexism in sports specifically as her topic. But she has real passion around her topic, and you see that come through on her website and in her content. In addition to the authenticity and the passion, it's important for creators to have creativity, to do something that's distinctive and fresh and a little bit different from what you might see on other websites. We're in a world where a lot of websites look the same. They look similar to the site you've just looked at and the site you're about to look at next. So we need people who are doing something a little bit creative, a little bit fresh. Baratunde Thurston is an example of this. He is creating, in this case, a newsletter site where he's got really distinctive visuals. He's got a very unique kind of approach to his content, and he's got a voice that's really distinct and his own. So he's taking a really creative approach to his work. And finally, in addition to authenticity and passion and creativity, we need depth. So we need to actually know, whether it's in your web presence or in your content, that you actually have some degree of mastery of a particular subject area or a particular skill area, that you have experience, that you have knowledge, that you are going to give something to me, the reader, or whoever your listener, viewer is, something that's distinctive and has some depth to it. So an example of this would be Judd Legum, who writes a newsletter about politics and really has done a great deal of investigative journalism in a solo creator capacity. So a great example of someone who's working independently, but providing real depth in the subject matter that he's focusing on. And in many cases, many of these creators and many of the most successful creators are creating content that's really narrowly focused on something very, very particular. Nathan Tenkus is an example of this, focusing really, really carefully on monetary policy in his case. Or in the case of Sherry Hu, focusing on the music business, the business of music. And she's actually created a DAO, about the music business, and really focusing narrowly on this and making sure her web presence reflects that narrow, clear focus. So each of these creators has developed a strong web presence that shows they're authentically interested in the subject, that they're speaking in an authentic way, they're passionate about the subject, they are creative in the way that they present their material, and they are really focusing in depth and narrowly on something.